Hey guys, how's it going? It is Kyra here, joined with Darth Microtransaction, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down a general good Necromancer build here. First, we're going to be starting with the skills, then going with the gear, and then the set items. So I'll have you take it away. Let's start with the actual build here.
Sure. So the first things first, we just got a new piece of gear. Super exciting. Check this one out. Did my gambos, got this. So I'm going to be equipping this, and we're going to go to the essence transfer because I got to turn it in to what's going to be our first piece of gear, which is going to be Flickering Warmth. Now, why are we using Flickering Warmth? Because it's one of the skills that we're going to be using. It's going to modify the bone armor. So the skills, here's the skills that we have. If you look here on my bar, I've got Skeleton Mage, I've got the Command Golem, I have the Bone Armor, and I have the Wraith. Now this build here is sort of a general use, but mostly I've been using it for doing what most of us do in the game, which is overworld farming. So I find myself using this build like 70% of the time I'm playing the game, because it's like a lazy man's farming AoE DPS, but it is lazy, easy DPS. So I'm going to walk you guys through these are the skills, and let's talk about why I'm going to modify them with the items. So the first legendary item here, let's do it through the essence transfer. Item that I have is the helmet, and it's going to increase your command golem duration. If you don't have this one, you can use skeleton mage duration. Doesn't really matter. You can also use the bone spikes for bleed damage if you want to change up the build a little bit and not run like bone armor, which we'll talk about in a moment. You can instead use spikes, but I do recommend command golem duration or skeleton mage duration for this build. The next one is going to be your shoulders, and the shoulders, once again, you're going to be a mage. You're going to want the one that gives you an additional maximum charge. Skeleton mage, this is a little bit misunderstood because people think of it from a theoretical standpoint, which is like, okay, well, 2 stacks, but it still charges it the same, so you can always have 2 mages up anyway, like it doesn't technically literally do anything. That's not really right, though, in practice, because what you'll notice is when you actually use one of them and you have the other stack, it's almost an ammunition system, so it starts regenerating. So if you drop both of them, then it's going to be continually farming them, basically, the ammo, whereas before, if you already had one ready without this shoulder, it would just stop and it wouldn't give you that second charge. So because of that, no matter if you have one available or not, it's always preparing the next one. And for that reason, it makes basically the cooldown better in practice, just not in theory. So that's why we use that one. You can also, if you don't have those shoulders in particular, you can replace these with skeleton mage shoulders, or even dark curse or bone armor if you guys are doing some variations of these builds. These are all good shoulders too, but for this build in particular, you're going to be focusing on the mage ones, and you can even use the bone armor if you don't want knockbacks and you are farming with a party. You don't really get a lot of knockbacks in PvE overworld farming, but this is one of the other shoulder replacements you can do. Now, this is the most important part of the build, in my own personal opinion. It's going to be the chest plate, which is what I turned into Flickering Warmth, because what it does is modifies your bone armor from being defensive to offensive, and it's going to give you these 3 little bones that are going to go around, kind of almost like, remember Hammerden back in the day, right, where you have
Aryan
stuff floating
Soul.
around you?
Aurelian
That's based,
Soul.
yeah, Aurelian Soul. It's exactly Aurelian Soul from League of Legends, and it moves with you. It also counts as a buff, so it's going to trigger your Bottle Hope, and you're going to be able to get increased movement speed, all that, and you'll be able to get increased duration from it too. Okay, now there's one other defensive item we have with it, which is the Purple Wraith, or Proximal Fear Pants, which I will show you here, and that is because this move allows us to deal damage instantly, because the proximal fear here, Wraith form now causes enemies that you touch, flee in fear, and damages them. 1, it's fear, so that will proc Chip of the Stone Flesh if you're using it. 2, it now turns in this movement item where you're moving through people, because you can move through people when you are in the Wraith form, will instead damage them also. So this is a pretty good way of continually farming. So when you're farming in a circle, you can just keep moving through people and literally not stop at all. The point of this build is that you don't have to stop while farming. Let's say this is the circle where I'm farming mobs. When I'm going through, let's say these are some mobs, I go through one mobs to damage them, leave a skeleton behind. I have these bone armor going while I'm running a circle. I summon the golem here to kill this pack. Let's just say there's a pack on every corner. Jump there to attack that pack. They're finishing that pack. I run here. I go through them with this and that pack. Leave a mage to finish it. Hit again with that pack.
Always
and
moving.
then just like that. That's how we're doing it. So you always have something. You're always going in a circle, basically. So the pants, because of that, are going to be proximal fear, but they're not required to be the proximal fear pants. There is a different pants you can use, which is going to be your bone armor duration, which is the Graven Bulwark, because that's going to obviously increase the duration of your triple Aurelian Soul, AoEs that's going on here. So now you can see my golem, when he died, split into little golems, and I can still have my other golem too. Wait, what? That's crazy. How do we have 3
Wow. Wow,
golems at
that's
once.
nuts.
Well, because if we move on here, what we have is we have dominance from dust. Your golem will split to 2 smaller golems when it dies. When you have the helmet, the duration increase, you have the golem up almost 100% of the time. There's just like a second. You can see right here, can be a little bit of downtime once this dies, and this will cover for your little bit of downtime with having continual
No,
damage. The reason you went
it's
up,
like Clash Royale, dude. It's, you know, when you have the
yeah,
golem.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a reference. It's a
Yeah.
reference. You can see there's 2 seconds of downtime, and these golems will cover for the 2 seconds of downtime. They're also they do damage too. So it's like both of these little guys are going to be burning with their AOE damage also. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's another version you could do. The weapon, there's only one answer, and it's Desolatoria. It's significantly better than literally all of the other ones. The Molten Golem burns all enemies and stuff, force them to attack. That's how you get the Molten Golem. You can make an argument. Some people have mathed out that the Command Golem with the Stone Golem actually does more damage. I don't care. That's not what I would use. What I want Desolatoria. The burning is OP. I love it. That's the build. That's how I use it. In theory, it might look a little funky. I've had people tell me that this build looks low damage and weird, and you have like Wraith and all that. But in practice, it's actually quite great. Farms really clean, really fast, really effectively. So that's the build I've been using. It's great in all things, as long as those things aren't PvP or single target damage. This build is essentially a PvE dungeon. Any of the things that are basically you increasing your stats of your hero, like grinding overworld, grinding dungeons, any of that, that is going to be your effectiveness. That's what it's for. So for that reason, it's my most common used build, because most of the time I'm trying to improve my character, and that's the build that does it the quickest. Now, there's a couple other things to keep in mind, which is going to be your set items, right? So if we talk about set items, a few different options. Technically, the bone armor does count as channeling. You can see it has a channel duration here. We just can move during it. So for that reason, we could be using the flagellant set, which all continual and channel damage, persistent ground damage is increased by 15%. The molten golem doesn't count as ground damage, but it does count as continual damage. I think, I'm not quite sure on that point. I haven't tested that. I would think the firewood, but I can't confirm that for a fact, because the other set, if you go here, is the Shepherd's Call, which increases your summons deal more damage too. So I'm not quite sure they let us double dip on the summons damage and it's one or the other. I'm not sure how they code it. If someone could test this and give us that information sooner than me myself have figured out, that would be fantastic. But I prefer the Shepherd, and then if I don't have the Shepherd, I would prefer the Torn Souls. The only reason I would prefer the Shepherd over the Flagellant one is because I believe that single target DPS with these mages are actually pretty good if you stack them up, and for that reason, having the bonus damage to single target is something that Necros need, because typically we're about clearing large packs of minions, and we're not really super hardcore in the single target DPS without Command Skeleton and Mage and all that, so that's one of the ways we can get that. That's just my personal opinion on this sets, but the great thing about these sets is you could go multiple ways, because the duration of beneficial effects on you or your party members could totally be used. I could see that with bone armor when you're using, not just with this build, but when you're using the buff on almost anybody, I could see the duration of that being nice. I obviously could see the duration of loss of control being nice, because you have fear, you've got the knockups, you've got the stuns, you have the non-desolatory version stuns as well. So there's almost an argument to be made for almost every set, but it seems like Shepherd is probably the one that's head and tails above everyone else, just because, I mean, the critical chance from the 4-piece is up to 18%. So that's where I'm at currently. This build doesn't require any legendary gems. Obviously, legendary gems are going to be great. I prefer the ones that kill things, that help kill things while I'm running past them, like Seeping Bile that's burning them and then jumping to the other people of the crews there. I like that. I like Zwinston's Haunting, where you kill something and you get another like random AoE. I like any of the stuff that basically helps you clear mod packs primarily. However, from what it seems testing, I've heard Bloodsoaked Jade doesn't actually increase any of your summons damage, which is interesting. So you would only really get the movement and the bone armor. Bottled Hope is almost a must-have because it's going to give you the biggest movement speed buff and damage buff every time you use the bone armor, and Wraith counts as a buff too. So it literally triggers off of both of these, depending upon which one you use. So I think Bottled Hope, if I had to pick one gem to point in your direction, I would say get Bottled Hope. Ship of the Stoneflesh is necessary in PvP because of the way that you can actually fear people. But other than that, that's the build. I really don't think the gems matter that much, and Bloody Reach would probably work. The 2-star one, I think Bloody Reach would work
be
pretty
sick.
good with it.
I think that's very comprehensive. We got the skills, legendaries, and the set bonuses. I think with them, I think that pretty much covers it, man. So
all right.
Well, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. You can check out Darth Micro's channel where I break down my barbarian guide over there. And with that, guys, we are out of here.